I hope you're feeling better. Your voice sounded pretty good on your solfege recording, so hopefully that is trending upward for you. But if not today, then by the rest of this week, I'm sure that you will be feeling back to normal, and hopefully your voice is starting to feel back to normal as well. So what I want to do today is I'm actually going to talk through some of the main information that you need to know when it comes to singing sick, when not to sing while you're sick, what to look for, how to do it, all those kind of tidbits of information that are really just useful because everybody gets sick, right? And so it's a little different when your instrument is your voice. If you get sick, it also affects your instrument. It's not like you suddenly got a bunch of termites lodging in your piano and you physically can't use the instrument itself, right? The instrument is sick too. So voice is definitely a little bit different when it comes to figuring out how to still be practicing when you are not feeling your best, because inevitably there will be times when you don't feel your best, right? So it's good to just kind of have that information. So the nice thing is too, because you have this as a video lesson, you can always go back to it if you need to remind yourself of something or kind of revisit it in the future. And of course, you can always just ask me if you have other questions in the future too. So let's go ahead and jump into that, and then I'll go through some more stuff for you to be kind of thinking about between now and Friday as far as your actual practice goes. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is the difference between discomfort and pain. So something can be uncomfortable without it being painful, right? And well, if something is painful, you're definitely not comfortable. So the idea is basically when it comes to using your voice when you're sick, a good measure of what is doable and what is not is when you cross that threshold from discomfort into pain. So anything that causes you actual pain when you are singing or using your voice, you want to just try and avoid. That means that if you have a sore throat, pretty much everything causes you pain, right? Now, again, you're not going to cause irreparable damage to your voice if you happen to still need to talk while you have a sore throat, right? That's silly. Everybody gets sick and has a sore throat and still talks and is just perfectly fine. The difference is if you do already have pain in that area, singing can make it worse. It can aggravate it, and then sometimes, depending on what you're actually sick with, it can cause additional swelling around the vocal folds, which we do want to try and avoid. So that's laryngitis, swelling of the larynx. Remember this area here, the vocal folds and all the muscles in proximity around them. And so that's really the big thing we want to try and avoid. The good news is you have to work really hard to cause serious damage to your voice because you're sick and talking. Obviously you're gonna not really be in the mood to do much vocally when you are experiencing illness, especially when it has something to do with your throat. So that one's pretty easy to follow. The other side of that then is if you are, let's say, kind of stuffed up and you're congested, and so things are not really sounding and feeling normal to you, and you have maybe a little bit of a cough, right? All of those things would cause discomfort vocally, but they shouldn't be causing you pain, right? It's not something that should be enhancing a painful sensation if you're speaking or singing. You're sick, right? you sound and feel sick. So that would be a situation where if you wanted to sing, if you still had the energy for it and you felt up for it, go for it. You're completely fine. But being able to navigate between this is uncomfortable versus this is painful, that's really going to be the important piece of that. Because if you are experiencing something that causes pain, again, we just want to try and avoid making that worse, right? Further irritating that. So that's kind of the big first thing, because a lot of the time, if you get sick and you're used to singing a lot or regularly, you're kind of thinking, gosh, what can I even do? Like, is it okay to keep singing? And how much is too much? So that's really the big first indicator, okay? Discomfort versus pain. Let's go on. So The next thing I wanted to talk about is how frequently you should be using your voice when you're sick. The truth is, there are going to be times where you can't avoid it, and there are going to be times where you can. So anytime that you can avoid overusing your voice, or even just, because again, if your throat hurts and it hurts to swallow, you're really not going to be wanting to do a whole lot of talking, right? And so, let alone singing. So if there's a case where you can just stay home and kind of not really talk to anybody and get lots of rest and drink lots of water and hot tea and all that good stuff that helps you feel better when you're sick, you should absolutely do that. If you can't avoid using your voice while you are sick, the important thing here is to be gentle. So this would also apply if you are practicing and you're actually singing while you're still getting over being sick, okay? Because your voice is still not at 100%, right? So you will be noticing certain things feel or sound different than they usually do because you're not at your best, right? And this can also happen too from other things, right? Sometimes the season changes and all of a sudden we all sound like we got frogs in our throats, right? Or sometimes we get allergies, or even just kind of a reaction to some other factor, right? That's the thing about your voice, is it's very tiny and it gets exposed to a lot of different things. So the odds of something little maybe causing a disruption to how your voice normally sounds and works can sometimes have a big effect. And the odds of that are pretty good, right? So let's see, was there something else with that? I feel like there was. Let me think. Oh yes, I remember. Okay, so even factors that you wouldn't normally think of, like we normally think of getting sick or allergies, right? But the weather can be a big role, like I already mentioned. Another big factor can sometimes just be not getting enough sleep. If you're really tired, that's gonna come out in how your voice sounds and functions. Hormonal changes throughout the month, that can also, I know that's kind of like a weird taboo-ish one to think about or talk about, but that can actually have a big effect on how your voice operates and how it sounds from any given week to another given week, right? And usually it's not going to be a huge, like, earth-shattering difference for something like that, right? But it may feel slightly different to you, okay? So that's something to keep in mind too, is there's a lot to keep track of. There's a lot of factors that can play into this. The truth is, most of the time we may not really be operating at 100% because of one thing or another, right? And so it's important to know how to best use your voice when you're in that less than 100% scenario, because it can come up so often from all these different things. So the important thing here is, if you are definitely experiencing some sickness or something that's affecting your voice and you know you're not at 100%, avoid overusing when possible, and when it's not possible, be gentle. That's the main takeaway, okay? You may have to modify how you approach some things. You may not be able to warm up as loud or as high in your range as you might normally be able to. You may get tired more quickly than you normally would in a practice session. All of those things are perfectly normal and they are totally okay. The important thing is that you don't fight them, okay? So be gentle when you need to still be using your voice and you know you're not at your best, and make sure that you're getting plenty of rest if and when you're able to, okay? Okay, oh, that kind of goes right into the next one. I took some notes for myself and I'm kind of bouncing around all over the place. So the next thing I wrote down to go over is the importance of rest, fluids, and listening to your body, which hopefully I've already kind of touched on a little bit. But really, when it comes to anything with voice, a lot of what we do is focused on paying attention to your body, right? Your instrument is part of your body, and so we can't have total mastery over it and have the consistency and the control that we want if we are just ignoring what our body is telling us. Pain is an indication that something is not okay, right? Something is wrong. That's why anytime we're practicing vocally, or we're trying a new technique or an exercise, anytime you experience any pain from something you're doing vocally, you always want to stop. Don't push through it. Don't feel like you have to be, you know, stronger or toughen up or anything like that. No. Pain is your body saying, hey, we got to find a better way to do this. This is not working, right? The only real reason that you end up, I shouldn't say that, it's not the only real reason, but one of the biggest reasons that a lot of people will end up with some kind of damage or something that requires a longer period of vocal rest and healing is because they don't listen to their body and they pushed through pain and they kept using their voice when they shouldn't have, okay? So just a great way to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a position where you have to take bigger steps later, okay? And I know it can sound kind of scary and like, oh my gosh, what are all these things I can do to no, you're not gonna wreck your voice. Everybody kind of tends to panic about that at one point or another. Like I said, it's actually very difficult to cause a big problem with your voice. Your voice is very resilient. The important thing is paying attention to what your body is trying to tell you. So especially when you're sick, lots of rest whenever you can, lots of fluids. Your voice is part of your body, so as your body heals, so does your voice. And making sure that you're listening to what your body is trying to tell you, okay? When you're tired, stop, right? If you are dehydrated, get some more fluids before you keep going. If you're, again, noticing that change from discomfort to pain, that's a good indication that maybe we should be done for now. We'll try again later, right? Okay, the last thing to go over is alternative practice techniques. So this is actually a really important one that not a lot of people think about because, excuse me, when we are practicing, we tend to get in our routine, which makes sense. And especially with singing, if you think about practicing singing, you're thinking about singing, right? So most of the time we're not really thinking about all the other things that we could be doing, but being sick or kind of needing to take a little more vocal rest than normal is actually a good opportunity to focus on some alternative practice techniques. So I'm gonna go through a couple here. There's more than this, but I think these are some of the most relevant to you right now, and they can still be really helpful. So mental practice. This is where you actually are not singing through your song, but you're imagining yourself singing through it, which sounds kind of funky, I know, at first. But they've actually done MRI studies, which is basically a big scan of your brain. And what shows on a brain MRI is there's a remarkable similarity between people's brain activity when they're singing a song, as well as when they just think about singing the song. So even though you're not physically making your voice go through the singing process, the brain is still getting all of that benefit from thinking about singing it. It's so bizarre and cool. But the point is that you can still get practice. I put it in air quotes, but it really is still practice. You can still get good practice just by thinking through what you would normally be singing, okay? So it gives your voice a rest, and it actually still helps to cement the information in your brain. It's pretty wild. So obviously not something that you can do exclusively, right? You can't just never sing your song, only think about singing it, and then expect it to just be wow, that was not a word. Majestic, there we go, and glorious, and the best thing that anyone's ever heard when you decide to sing it for the very first time. Doesn't work like that, but in the situation where you're sick, that can be very, very beneficial so that you still work on your repertoire without having to actually use your voice. Okay, next thing, listening. We've talked about this a little bit. So with listening, this is a good opportunity when you're sick to do research and expose your brain to hearing other people's versions of the same song. This can also be helpful for us as singers because we can watch people performing. We can see other things that maybe they're doing that give us ideas for our own performance, and sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes we see them performing and we think, wow, that totally does not fit the song, or oh my gosh, I would so not be comfortable ever doing that. And that's valuable information to have too, right? So either way, you're learning because you're exposing yourself to other performances that teach you ideas that might work for you and ideas that might not work for you. But either way, it gives you a broader experience for the song itself. You'll see multiple interpretations of it, which can be helpful in figuring out how you want to interpret the song, especially when it comes to something like musical theater songs. That is super helpful to get a wide variety of other people's performances. And also, it's hard to imitate what you're not familiar with, right? So if you're trying to think, well, I know this needs to go more in this direction, but I don't know what to do, right? It's hard to come up with something you've never seen before. So it can be a really good opportunity to make your practice time instead be looking up other recordings, video or audio or both, of, I mean, if you have a video recording, you probably have the audio too, but you never know. But to look up those other recordings of other people's performances to help further inform your own performance. That can also help with memorizing too. You listen to the same song 8 times by watching, 6 to 8 performances, and you're gonna memorize it real fast. So that can be another great way to use your practice time when you're sick. Marking is the third thing, and this is a technique that I actually have a YouTube video for. I forget from how long ago now, when everything was shut down and I was doing the teaching videos. But anyway, if you want more insight into that, that's a good video to give you an idea of more of the specifics to what marking is. A lot of the time we think of just making notes in the music, we're marking it, right? When it comes to singing, it actually has another definition, and it means that we're basically holding back in a certain way to have more gentle vocal use. So if we have a song that's really, really high and we're not feeling so great, maybe we sing it an octave lower where it's more comfortable, right? That's a form of marking. If you would normally sing a song with a lot of loud sections, you sing it softer, right? Because it's more gentle for your voice when your voice is not at its best. This is also a great technique for people who do a lot of rehearsals. If you have to do a 3-hour rehearsal and then still show up the next day and perform on top of that, you can't afford to be singing full voice with all of your power and expression and volume and range and all of those things, and to still have a voice afterwards for other stuff too. So marking actually helps increase the longevity of your voice if you're in a situation where you need to be using your voice a lot. So helpful outside of being sick or having allergies, anything like that as well. But I would recommend checking out that video if you are curious about that. The nice thing is you don't have to sing at full capacity in order to still be practicing. That kind of comes back to paying attention to what your body is telling you, right? And making sure that, if you are at less than 100%, you're choosing the gentle route and not the just power through it route, okay? The last one I wrote down is memorizing. Again, a lot of those other techniques are going to be very helpful just with memorizing. Memorizing is gonna kind of happen no matter what. But it's a good opportunity when you're sick to focus on just trying to get stuff memorized, right? Maybe you're just reciting the lyrics to something in your head, or maybe you're trying to remember how the melody goes even though you're not actually singing it. That can be another great way to work on your practice time without actually using your voice full steam ahead. So I hope all that helps. Again, this will get more comfortable to you over time. Unfortunately, you'll be sick again. So it can be a really good opportunity to, even though it doesn't feel like it, to use some of these other strategies to kind of, to get kind of a different spin on how you normally would do your practice. Kind of gets you out of the normal routine box, which sometimes can be a good thing. And it allows you to work on some of these other strategies that normally you wouldn't really be incorporating as much. So there we go. All that to say, I hope you feel better soon. All right, so what I'm gonna do for more of our normal assortment of things that we will be working on for this week or the rest of this week, I'm gonna send you 2 new warm-up exercises. They're going to be specifically designed for singing while you're getting over something where you haven't been able to use your voice as much, okay? So one is gonna be a hum exercise, another is gonna be a lip trill. And I'm not gonna expand your range as much as I normally would. They're going to go a little bit slower. They're gonna be gentle volume. All of the things that I've kind of been talking about, we want to apply that here. So another piece of that is when you have been sick and you do start to want to use your voice regularly again, you want to make sure that your warm-ups reflect that. You don't want to dive in with your hardest warm-up exercises that have you going a mile a minute, you know, all over the place and going super high in the range and really stretching you and all of that stuff. We want to keep it nice and gentle to ease back in so that we're not, you know, taking a chance of causing any unnecessary swelling or soreness, anything like that, right? We want to take it slow, keep it gentle. So I will send those to you separately. Your solfege recording, like I said, looks really good. It's up to you if you want to keep working on that for Friday. If you want to go over it together on Friday again, happy to do that. If you want to kind of take a little break for the rest of the week with solfege, that's fine too. We'll probably, I said we'll most likely just start a new one when you come on Friday, unless you'd like to go through set 3, number 1 together on Friday one more time. I'm fine either way, so that's totally up to you. And then our 2 songs that we've been working on up till now, well, for today, right? We have On Mondays and Living in the Moment. So on Mondays, remember, our target has been expression. This would actually be a great opportunity to kind of do a little research on the listening to performances, right? Or even to focus on singing this in front of the mirror, but using the marking technique. So sing it very quietly. If you need to kind of not sing some of the highest notes because they're uncomfortable, that's fine. You can just kind of lip sync them for right now. But the point is, it kind of takes the singing part out of the picture so that you can focus on the expression, right? So that might be kind of an interesting way to work on that for a couple days as your voice is coming back. Living in the moment, we've been working on confident performance, right? So that might be something, again, where maybe you're focused a little more on the listening strategy, looking up other performances, getting the memorization really solid to help with the confidence. And again, maybe marking that practice as you sing in front of a mirror so that you are confident with how you look, even as your voice is still making a comeback, okay? The other thing that I'd like you to do for Friday is to choose a new song in the Contemporary Musicals book to start. If we need to go over that together, then we can. I can pick one for you, but if there's one that you'd really like to get started on, I would like you to take another look at the pieces that are in there and see if there's something that you would like to do. Otherwise, we'll pick something out together on Friday. And then the last thing is we're just getting more in the habit, like I talked about with the piano lesson video of, sorry, I'm starting to get all my words mixed up now. I've been talking so much. So the other thing is to start getting in the habit of reviewing old pieces. This I'm really not worried about for you at all because you've already been doing a really great job of including that in your practice anyway. And it clearly paid off, right? Last month with the workshop, it was a no-brainer to pull out Rainbow, and you'd already been practicing it as a review piece. So that's one of the advantages of making that a regular part of your practice. Can be super beneficial. So just keep up with that as your voice is coming back. Again, remember, take it easy, ease back in. Don't expect to suddenly wake up one day and all of your symptoms may be gone, but you can just jump right back into your vocal routine. You still have to kind of work your way back up a little bit. Just like if you were a runner, right? And you had to take a week off because you got sick from running, you're gonna have to get your body back up a little bit to that standard of stamina and endurance. It'll take a little bit of recovery time, even as you go back to doing it again. Well, singing is also an athletic event, so you can't expect to just show up one day after taking some time away from practice and it's all hunky-dory and you pick up right where you left off, right? You might notice that there's still some tiredness. You maybe get tired quicker. You can't do quite as much as you normally would be able to do as far as your range or before your voice maybe starts to get dry or to start cracking, anything like that. Don't be stressed about that. Don't think that you're doing something wrong. It just takes time to work back up when you're coming back from being sick and being kind of out of vocal commission. Okay. All right. If you run into any issues, of course, you can reach out to me during the week. But otherwise, I will see you on Friday and hope you are feeling better so soon. All right. See you then.